Hi, I'm West of Avlea Folk Embroidery, and this is the September FlossTube. Before I launch into the FlossTube, let me just remind you where you can find me, and this will all be in the notes below. You can find all of my designs at www.avleaembroidery.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at kristamwest and Pinterest. For those of you who are on Facebook, all of my Instagram posts go to Facebook. There is an Avlea Facebook page, but I don't really do a lot with Facebook because I'd never had a Facebook account until I started Avlea. And I find the platform really confusing, to be perfectly honest. So if you really want to see what I'm up to on a day-to-day basis, Instagram's a better choice, as well as if you just want to recap every week, sign up for the emails at the Avlea Embroidery website. I work really hard every week. I spend well over an hour writing a detailed email, sort of basically showing what I'm working on, what I'm thinking about. It's sort of my little creative diary for the week, are the emails, the weekly emails. So that's all the places you can find me. Now, we should launch in because there's a lot. As usual, I was gathering everything up and thought, there's not much. And then here I am with all the stuff. So I apologize that I'm a little late with this one. I've had two things happen. I am still getting over a bad cold that I picked up from my trip in New York. And it's been a couple of weeks. And anyways, I'm still fighting the silly cold. So anyways, but I feel like I'm on the mend. I think this weekend, if I kind of lay low, oh gosh, I'll just have to stitch a little. I think I can be over it by next week. And then we have been remodeling the kitchen. For those of you who are just joining me for FlossTube, we live in a 1923 historic home. We bought this house almost 5 years ago when my husband took early retirement, and it had always been kind of a dream of ours to restore an old home. We love old houses. And so we got this one. And when we moved in, let's see, it would be now November of 2017, there were literally rats in the attic and no heat. And it was every room needed attention. And so, but one of the big draws of this house, I mean, the house is beautiful, but one of the big draws is that I have a 1,400 square foot workshop in the basement, and I was outgrowing my workshop in Portland where we lived before. It was about 400 square feet. So one of the big draws was getting the workshop. So we renovated the workshop right off the bat. We still have a little bit more work to do down here, but honestly, like, we're so busy working all the time down here that like I almost never have time to like sand, some of the last few bits of woodwork that need to be done. But the rest of the house, we've been working on room by room by room. We've sanded all the floors and refinished all the floors to the original Douglas old growth fir or oak. We have both. We've sanded every inch of millwork in the house and 28 doors. That includes all the closet doors. It's been a lot of work. And we just finished the bathroom. Let's see, in May, we finished the downstairs bathroom. And the last big project was the kitchen. And the kitchen, it's so hard to renovate your kitchen because like, where are you going to eat? And so we're in the middle of that right now, and it kind of feels like we are both camping and having a garage sale in our house all at the same time. All of the dishes, everything from the kitchen is just stacked up in stacks in the dining room, and it is really chaotic. Anyways, so between the cold and the kitchen, I'm a little late. But let's get to stitching. That was a lot about like the kitchen, but I'm really excited. They did the tile work in June, because that's when our tiler guys had all the options, and my husband is now doing all of the patching and sanding and all of that needs to happen. But when it's all done, I'm really excited. We're basically taking it back to like a really kind of classic 1920s kitchen. We got new cabinet doors made, but we're actually renovating the existing cabinet boxes. That's like the built-in sections, because those date back to 1959 from the first big remodel of the kitchen. We don't really know what the kitchen would have looked like in the 20s, but it probably would not have had nearly as much built-in cabinetry. It would have been a lot of freestanding furniture units. But the existing 1959 cabinetry is awesome. So we're going to go back to that. And we just had new doors made. So anyways, a lot of detail about that. Let's move on to stitching. So I got back it's been a couple weeks ago now, from the Embroiderers Guild of America National Seminar in New York. It was a ton of fun. Oh my word, it was so much fun. I got to take a gold work class, and while I can do it, I did decide that gold work is not for me. It is so detailed and so fussy. And I felt like it did, to be perfectly honest, I did not feel like it brought me the same sort of meditative, mindful joy that like even weave stitching does. But it was really fun to try, and it was a really fun thing to like do. I hadn't done gold work for probably almost 3 decades, so it was really great to like jump in and do something like that. And actually it did feel kind of good to know that like I can do it. So that was kind of fun. And it was great to like be in a class. I mean, it was 8 hours a day for 2 days, so it was intense. And then then the craziest thing happened while I was there. My neighbor Christine was in New York at the same time. And I knew she was going to be in New York, but suddenly I get this text, "Hey, we're going to a Broadway show. Can we like change in your hotel room?" And I'm like, "Sure," because the hotel room that I was in was right in Times Square. So they go to their Broadway show. This is like Thursday night. And they get back at like 11 p.m. And she's going to take the subway with her 12-year-old daughter at 11 p.m. And I'm like, no. So we just had this impromptu slumber party in my hotel room. It was pretty crazy. And then the next night, she thanked me by taking me to see The Music Man with Hugh Jackman. Oh my word. Such fun at the Winter Garden Theater. It was really, really fun. And then the following night, I had the Marketplace event. And that was, oh my word, crazy. I sold more in 2 hours than I normally do in 2 weeks. So it was really crazy. And my card reader like died the last 20 minutes of the show, but it was really, really fun. And I loved getting to talk face to face with stitchers about all the Avlea designs, both the people that have been stitching them and the people who had seen, this is like the first time they were seeing them. And I love seeing that initial like, whoa, wait, what is this whole folk embroidery thing? So anyways, so it was a really fun trip. And so now we actually really do need to get into some stitching. So a couple of stuff. Let's see. Let me show you some stitching. What's going on right now? Okay. First up, just released, is the whole Byzantine band sampler. And this is the Bit Kit Blue Poppy. I'm going to get a little closer to that. I'm going to be doing the how-to video on this tomorrow. I've been waiting for my voice to get to the point where I can do the video because of the silly cold. But I'm going to show you how to make the really cute little lined drawstring bag. I'll do a video of that. My husband's going to help me tomorrow because this is a great way to use borders and little bits of scrap fabric, because you just need a really long, skinny strip of fabric and then a little bit of cotton lining fabric or whatever you have, a print or something that you might have around in your stash. I just use DMC floss for the braid cord and boom. And I find these little bags so handy. They also make great gifts. And they don't take much stitching. I think I stitched this in like a night or two. So it's a really great little thing to have because it's very kind of cool and folk embroidery, but it's not like a huge commitment. So the how-to video of the Bit Kit Blue Poppy drawstring bag should be up tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Okay. Then, let's see. All of you have been Instagramming and messaging me about the cushions. I just have to take a moment and say, I am loving the cushion love. I'm getting so much cushion love from people. They are all like, oh my gosh, when are the cushions, the cushions, the cushions? So, Nesiro Sleeves is going to release in about a little over, let's see, it'll be late September. So let's see, it's really going to be in about 10 days or so. We're going to release that on the website, end of September. And I'll do an email, like letting you know when that's available. I love this design. I have it in my living room and I'm just so happy with it. So this is the Nesiro's leaves cushion cover. And then this is the Essex linen cotton the Essex linen cotton blend cushion back kit in the dusty blue. You could do it in the ivory too. We have the Essex linen now, the cushion back kits in blue and ivory. And, oh, I have to remember to tell you about that too, which is kind of exciting. So Nesiro Sleeves. I just love this design. It like reminds me of quilting, I think, because of this whole like geometry thing. Oh, just love it, love it, love it. So that's coming out in about 10 days. Sign up for the emails. And then this is Tilos Primrose. This is just a big, huge, gorgeous cushion. Love this one too. And this one also is coming out, as well as Scandari Diamonds. Scandari Diamonds was stitched by Deborah, and so it was one where she stitched it and she wanted it back. So basically it already went back and is now probably a pride of place in her living room or wherever she has it. And also too, if you're interested in cushions, Deborah posted a really cool post on the courtyard a couple of days ago showing how she took the Mediterranean sampler design. For those of you who are familiar with that one, it's a little blue and white sampler that has 4 different Mediterranean motifs. And she inset it into fabric. And I was so excited to see her post that, because it's actually one of the next things I'm working on, is creating some smaller designs where basically the embroidery will be in the center of the cushion, and then you'll finish it out with mitered fabric border. Because I feel like, not everybody wants to stitch, 20,000 stitches. People want something that might be a little bit smaller, a little bit more petite, maybe a little bit faster project. And so I am working on that with designs like this. This is actually just a new little mock-up I've been working on over the last week. And this is like a little, it's just a little, it's kind of like a little almost like tulip design. And this is one that I'm going to do both as a table runner orientation, and then also show how you use it as a inset for a pillow. So we'll do both on this one, because a lot of designs adapt really well. And I think especially with a lot of what's going on in home decor right now, I mean, in my world, embroidered cushions are always in, like always. I love them. But we are having a huge moment in home decor right now. The cottagecore movement, the grand millennial movement, cluttercore. I just heard that one. I love that one. Personally, feel like my workshop is #cluttercore. But this whole design, really this whole new design era that we're going into, we're kind of coming out of all the mid-century modern and the very clean and minimalist, and we're kind of we're embracing kind of more a more lavish designs and intricacy and ornateness in our home interiors, and I couldn't be happier. I love that. I mean, I don't like everything like jumbled looking, but I love having the intricacy of textiles and embroidery and rugs and things like that. I just feel like it makes a home environment so warm. So cushions are coming, and if these 2 weren't enough and the little inset one wasn't enough, I'm really excited that my new the next batch of 4 hoop kit designs, there'll be 4 of them, mirror medallion, Canterbury leaf and scroll, Scottish rose, and the one I always forget, I can't think of it all, Byzantine palmette. Those designs, okay, so I went to have what's done, I came up with the designs, and we tested them out a little bit, did the first run of testing. There's like a first run of testing that we have to do to make sure the line width is right. Sent them off to Robert Kaufman, who prints all of our fabric for the embroidery hoop kits. And they were like, so sorry, we're out of Kona cotton right now. And I'm like, what? So it made me kind of go back to the drawing board, because I knew we were going to be at least over a month delayed on that. And so I was like, wait, we've been wanting to do these designs as larger cushion cover designs too. So probably today, maybe tomorrow, I should get the first, what's called a strike off, the first test piece of those designs done in a 12 by 12 inch format on an 18 by 18 inch piece of the Essex linen. And I am really curious to stitch those up, because I've looked around and there's not a lot out there in terms of designs that are printed on the fabric, on a good quality fabric, for larger surface embroidery kits. And a lot of people don't want to have to trace the design. And believe me, I totally get that. I actually do not enjoy tracing designs. I have a huge custom light box my dad built me years ago. So I've got like the world's best light box, and I don't even like doing it. So I feel like having those designs stamped on, but a really high quality. So that's going to be like another version of my embroidery hoop kits. I'm really excited, and that should be here, like, I'm hoping today. I got the shipping notification. I can't wait to see the sample. When I get it, I'll post it on Instagram, and as I'm working through that. So you can see that over the next couple of weeks while I work on those designs and figure out which one I'm going to release first. So cushion covers. What else is going on? Let's see here. Okay. This is a couple more designs that are in process that I thought I'd give you sneak peeks of. I only have the charts. Sample Stitchers are working on these, but they're due in like 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm very excited. This first one is Ukrainian tulips. Love this one. Really cool border design. And Katie is stitching this. This one has such an interesting story. Somebody, a friend of Katie's found this Ukrainian folk embroidery at Goodwill and paid like $6 for it. And it was in these incredibly light, bright colors. Like a lot of Ukrainian embroidery, particularly from the 70s, 60s and 70s is. Lots of like hot oranges. The colors are just a little too light bright, at least in my opinion. I know some people love those colors, but I like my colors maybe just to dial down a smidge. And they found it, and Katie sent me photos and allowed me to recreate the design from this thrifted textile, which is so exciting. So anyways, and I did it with really muted colors. So it's got like rosewood and a turquoise and golden olive, and it's just going to be fabby. Fabby, fabby, fabby. And this could be basically a table square, or, you know, you could turn it into a cushion cover. So I'm excited about that one. That may release as early as December, so kind of hoping for that. Then the other one that's coming in any day now is Cypress and Hollyhock. I have tried for the last 2 years to release a Cypress and Hollyhock design. I tried it as a small design and I didn't like it. And then I finally sat down and worked it over this last spring and turned it into a table runner. A Cypress and Hollyhock design like this is these little cypress trees with the like kind of little like floral design. I mean, I'm just calling that Hollyhock. Just for fun. But these designs are really common in Greek folk embroidery. And I wanted to do something that really honored that design. And so it's going to be a table runner, Cypress and Hollyhock. Very cool. Beautiful color palette. It's got 936 deep avocado contrasted with the 676 light gold. So it should be really, really poppy. Have a lot of pop to it. Then, what else is going on? Okay, then this is really fun. So I've mentioned in the last couple of FlossTubes that I'm now working directly with the mill in Athens that produces traditional folk embroidery fabrics and even weave fabrics. And some of what they produce is like the totally traditional stuff, and some of it is like modern interpretations. And this is not necessarily a traditional fabric, but it is super cool. And I'm going to be adding it to the lineup. This is basically a fabric, if you can see, that, here, let me hold this part up, that has drawn thread hemming already done by machine. And so what it does is each square is 100 threads by 100 threads. It's about 16 count, so it's kind of fine. But what's super cool is you can take a design like this, and I haven't finished this one all the way, I'm just now working on it, and you put the design in each square. And so you can decide on this fabric, like for example, I'm still deciding on this one. Let me take that off. I'm still deciding if I'm going to actually work these motifs as a border and like leave the center plain, or you can work the whole table runner with that. And I've got a great big chunk of it because I'm not sure how big I want to work this. But I love this idea because you can take a smaller design that's really pretty fast and easy to work up. I mean, I've been working on this for 2 nights. And so that's how much I already have done. I'm almost done with one motif. But yet, because the machine drawn thread fills in a lot of the fabric, I don't know, it's just so cool. So I'm really envisioning this as both table runners and as inserts for cushions. Because this would also be really cool for cushion covers, to basically take like 4 of them and make that the center and insert. That could be really cool. I have this is called K2 fabric. I'll probably give it a little bit more exciting name than that, but I'm going to have it on the website pretty soon. I've got to photograph it. I got a new camera. It was like, last week was like tech week. And I don't say that with a lot of joy in my voice. I hope you can hear that. So I had a cold, the kitchen was chaos, and I got my new camera, which I've really needed to replace my camera. I got the camera and I was like, woohoo, pull out the camera. Let's just use a new camera. The camera has a 1,000-page manual. And later today, I have to watch an hour-long YouTube video just to learn how to turn the thing on. I mean, I'm looking, trying to figure out how to download photos. And it's like, oh, wait, that's not where you download photos. That's how you charge. So the lesson of this is that maybe I should update my camera more often than once every decade. Just saying. But I know once I get it all together, it's going to be great. And it's going to be really nice to have a new camera. And then my laptop broke down for the second time. So my laptop had gone in while I was in New York. I've had this laptop, the saga of the laptop. So about 1.5 years ago, I finally think, ooh, I'm an embroidery designer. And I'm going to shell out for one of those fancy, high def laptops. Okay, I do. I shell out an ungodly amount of money for this HP laptop, and it's literally given me nothing but grief ever since. I mean, the display is amazing. Like, using WinStitch and designing with an HD screen is just like, I am never going back. It's fabulous. But this is the third time it's been into the shop. And so kind of a regular feature of my relationship with this laptop is calling customer support. It's so frustrating. So I sent it in while I was in the EGA. I get it back and it didn't fix the problem. So I have to send it in again. So then I had to go and get a second laptop because basically we need the second workhorse laptop while the first laptop is in having its spa days with the repair guys. And it's just been, so new camera and the laptop, and I'm literally sitting here going, I just want to stitch. All I really want to do is stitching. And I don't really love the tech side of things. So anyways, so it was a little rough last week. The camera actually, true confessions, because I feel like I know a lot of people go like, Krista, you're always excited all the time. Okay, just so you guys all know, I'm keeping it real. The camera actually had me in tears. I was literally crying out of frustration because I could not figure out how to work the camera. So, real moment there, the camera. But we'll get through the camera and then we'll have really beautiful photos and it'll be great. So anyway, so that was the tech stuff. What else is in process? Okay, so the K2 fabric. So as soon as I can get it photographed, I'll get it photographed and up on the website so that people can start buying it. I don't have a lot of it. They don't have a lot of it in cotton. This is 100% cotton. It's also made in 100% poly. And I'm like, nah, poly is not for me. So I'm waiting to get more of the cotton. I have maybe, I'm looking at the shelf, I have maybe 4 yards. I don't have that much of it, but I'm hoping to get more from them. And then what else is in process? Oh, this is really fun. Some of you have been watching on Instagram. Right now, the working title of this one is Rachel's Runner, because Rachel Pugis sent me the photo of this really beautiful table runner she had bought in the 1970s. And it has satin stitch. And so I couldn't really figure out how to put satin stitch in my WinStitch. I'm sure there's a way, but I couldn't really figure it out easily. So I turned it into cross stitches because I felt like that would be a little bit easier. And this is such a cool design. I am just loving this design. I have just it's got all of these really cool alternating color repeats. Like every row that repeats colors repeats it in a slightly different pattern. So it has this really amazing energy and all these colors are laid down. And then you do all this like outlining and back stitching to like make the design pop. Oh, it's really fun to work on because I find that the one thing I have to do with this though was like when I'm doing these, I have to have a whole bunch of needles like lined up with each floss color. I just find that's a lot faster and it's easier than counting. So I kind of keep like a whole little palette next to me of all my needles. Anyways, but it's really fun. And I decided for myself, I'm making this and it's going to be like the double wide runner because I have a spot I want it that I need a long runner for. But I'll release it as a kit, probably in both a single repeat, which will go from here to here, and a double repeat. Because this one also would be amazing for a cushion cover. Because this whole design here, it gets flipped and it fills in the bottom section. So I'll keep you posted on this one as I'm working. I just love this design. Love, 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 love it. And it was kind of fun for me to go back to the traditional ground cloth because of all the new fabrics that have come in over the last 3 to 4 months, I haven't worked anything on traditional ground cloth for a while. So it's been really fun for me to go back and be like, oh, hey, old friend, like this is the fabric that started it all. So anyways, that's in process. Now, finished things. Okay, really excited about this one. This one's called Sea of Light. I know, it's kind of a fanciful title, but there's a little bit of a backstory here. So I'm going to hold it up and so hopefully you can see the whole thing. I'm going to stand and kind of, okay, there you go. This is his beautiful design. I found kind of the original motif. I mean, I adapted it really heavily because the original motif felt very sort of, it had a real sentimental quality to it that I didn't really love. And so I'm guessing it was a folk embroidery design because, again, with all of this sort of like diamonds and the outlining and everything, very folky. And then it was, a snippet of it was in a vintage needlework booklet from my private collection, probably printed in the 60s. And they had made the flowers really like smooshy looking. And I didn't really like the flowers. They needed to kind of be back to what they probably were originally, which is a lot more geometric. So I worked this design. It's got a really cool little border here that mimics drawn thread. This little guy here is just so cool. This little like sort of almost like railroad border with a little bit of this out here. It mimics drawn thread with like a picot edge. It's really creative. And so this one is actually going to release in January because blues are associated in the Greek tradition. Blues are associated with theophany. Theophany is, I always get confused if it's January 6th or January 7th. You know, I should know this, but it's a feast day, and it's the feast day of Christ being baptized. And so everything about it is associated with water. This is like when you hear of the Greek celebrations of like they'll like in Florida at Tarpon Springs when they'll throw the cross in the water and the boys will dive for the cross. That's theophany. And so that when I make vestments for theophany, they're usually blue in the Greek tradition. So there's this whole kind of traditions of using blue and water and this sort of a thing surrounding theophany. And it's in like the deep part of winter. And I just kind of love that. So I'm actually entering this in a local art. It's an art exhibition. So I'm kind of excited about that. I wasn't going to, and then I was like, you know, why shouldn't we start submitting our textile pieces to like our local art associations? You know, why does paint, oil paint, photography, sculpture, why do those media sort of rank higher than textiles? I'm just saying. So I'm going to submit it and see what happens. Who knows? I might not get accepted, but you never know. But I love this guy. And this is on, oh, I should mention too, this is on the white traditional ground cloth. Oh, and a very cool note about the white traditional ground cloth. So I worked this up and I just, you know, pop it on the work table. I'm getting ready to measure it and trim it. And I'm like, oh no. It's 26 count in one direction and 25 count in the other direction. I'm like, shoot. So I went to the mill and I'm like, I'm just curious about this. And the guy I'm working with at the mill has my undying love because he writes the most complex, like detailed emails answering all of my fussy questions. And I love that. So he explained to me that because these are modern reproductions of the traditional fabrics, the traditional fabrics, the hand-woven fabrics, would have had hand-spun threads that then would have been hand-woven. And so you would have had variation in that. And so to mimic that, they actually use overspun threads, particularly in the weft direction. Is that right? Yeah, in the weft. I think I have that right. I literally like almost have to refer to my notes to explain this to you. And so this fabric is designed to basically shrink up a little bit after washing. And that's how you get, for those of you who are familiar, if you've had any pieces with traditional ground cloth, you notice that it gets a little bit of like an almost like fold effect over time. And that happens usually after like hand washing. And that pulls up and pulls up some of the threads and relaxes some of the overspun. And that's when you get like the more, it basically changes the count back to 26 count. The one thing he did tell me, and this was actually a good tip, was that the traditional ground cloths, we don't want to press them too much because we'll lose that effect. And I was like, oh, whoops, I've been doing a lot of pressing because, you know, with the drawn thread hem. But I'm going to experiment with that more. And so if you're using a fabric with traditional ground cloth and you want that kind of fold, kind of almost, some people have even said it looks like a herringbone or a chevron very faintly when it like gets that kind of texture to it over time. You want to like not iron that, like you don't want to iron that a ton, and to get that texture you actually do want to wash the fabric. So that'll kind of relax it. So because of that, oh, and I should note that I'm not noticing the count is not that way on the natural color. The natural color seems to be 26 count in both directions, so we're all good. It tends to be most pronounced on the white. And so on any kits, I put a big note on the website on the fabric so you'd know that. And then any kits that have that, we're going to allow extra fabric for that kind of falling action to happen, so that you don't end up too short on fabric. So anyways, it was kind of interesting. I learned a ton through finishing that one. And then sneak peek, looking ahead, this little design, this is going to be a new bit kit that we'll release in December called Scandinavian Stars, is also on the white traditional ground cloth. I just love it. I kind of am going into this like blue and white phase lately, like doing tons of things with blue and white and all the cool colors. I don't know. It's just been something I've been really interested in. So that one's coming out. It's so cute. This is actually a little design from a Latvia needlework booklet. I just love it. Really, really fun. And then I will be re-releasing the Bit Kit Byzantine Rose. Now this was one of our very first bit kits. This was like bit kit number 4 back in the early days. The first 3 bit kits that we started with were Grecian Stripe, which I'm in the process of re-releasing. I want to work in a little bit different colorway and release it in a slightly different size because it's an awesome beginner kit for people who are just starting out. It's a great way to learn how to like see the threads. And then Placidia Floral and Salerno Tile. Those were our first 3. But then shortly thereafter, Byzantine Rose added was I think number 4. And so the issue though is that the Sakari fabric, the raw sugar color of the 30 count Mikini, is very, very deep ecru. And a lot of people don't like that. So we're phasing out the Sakari color because it almost looks brown. So basically I have maybe 2 yards left, and when it's gone, I'm not going to be restocking it. And we're going to switch this kit over to the 26 count Mikini because it's a little easier to see the threads, and it is a true like kind of ivory color as opposed to like a deep kind of brownish ecru. So that one we worked up, and as soon as I figure out the camera and can photograph it, we'll have this guy back up and released. And then what else is going on? Oh, a couple of other things. For those of you who have been getting orders, you are probably noticing, those of you who've been ordering, you're getting your little insert here about Help Heal Veterans. So we are now partnering with Help Heal Veterans, and every time you get an Avlea order in your little ivory poly mailing bag that's like reusable, you know how you can like pull the strip off and then you can reuse the little mailer. If you have leftover craft supplies, it can be floss, it can be fabric, hoops, anything, needles, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to send needles, like put them in with like cardboard or something so they're safe. And you can basically just cut off this lower portion and ship it to Help Heal the Vets. If you send it first class, it should only cost a couple of dollars. If you have a kitchen, if you don't want to have to go to the post office, you can use a kitchen scale to weigh it, and then just Google how much is 6 ounces first class mail, and then you can just put a bunch of stamps on it and then send it in. But we are partnering with Help Heal Veterans to have craft kits and craft supplies for veterans who are using crafting as part of their occupational therapy. We are also we are helping them out. They have 2 of our designs as free patterns. I think it's Bit Kit Chloris, so maybe Salerno Tile. And we're helping them with like getting them hoops and big cones of DMC floss. But what they could really use is like if you have little scraps, like, you know, even smallish pieces of Aida cloth or even weave fabric, that's what they can really use. And those are really light to ship. And even leftover bundles of floss, you know. It's a great organization to support. They've been around for a really, really long time. And I love that they're using crafting as a wellness therapy. That's just like awesome. So that you'll see that insert. And then the last thing that just hit, 2 things hit the website this week. One was a new free chart based off of the Byzantine band sampler. So it's one of the other borders from this pattern. and that's as a free chart, and it's a really cool one, and it's actually the one I'm going to be using in the how-to video of this. So when I make that tomorrow, that's what I've used it, the free chart. I use that to stitch that little bag that I'll be demoing tomorrow. But the other thing that hit the website yesterday, two things I forgot. And I forgot to even mention this, and maybe I'll talk about this in the next FlossTube, but just a quick sneak peek. I have now changed out all of my embroidery hoop kits. That's like Aegean Sunrise, Arcadian Rose, Thessaly Floral. Those kits all now have the higher quality beechwood hoop. I negotiated the heck out of that deal, and I only had to raise the price $2. I was so happy about that. So I did two things. I negotiated like crazy, and I ordered a gazillion hoops. So I got kind of quantity pricing to get those beechwood hoops. And then we started printing the little photo card on the outside of the package in-house. And that saves enough to help offset the cost of the hoops so that I didn't have to raise the price very much on those kits. So all of those surface embroidery kits, the one where the design's stamped on the fabric, now come with a really beautiful beechwood hoop that has a brass set screw. I was so excited to do that. So I'll talk more about that in the next FlossTube. But that was something I really wanted to do. But that means that all the last kits that have the bamboo hoops are now on the sale page. So if you're looking for great gifts, and I think they're marked down to like $23. So they're a really good deal with free shipping. So that's a good deal. If you're looking for a bargain or want to kind of like, get some good stuff in your stash for Christmas gifts, that'd be a great way to go. I'm telling you first. And then the last thing that hit the website is the BitKit conversion chart. So a little bit of backstory here. A lot of the BitKits, and of course I don't have a good one right now in front of me, have repeating designs. BitKit Katarina, BitKit Phoebe, BitKit Salerno Tile. Those are repeating designs, and it's really common in Greece to see table runners made out of, fairly large, good-sized table runners made out of just those repeating designs. They're just beautiful. They're one of kind of my favorite pieces in folk embroidery, are those table runners that are just covered with a design. But the math is a little bit tricky, and I sat down and thought, I can just like throw this together. This will be super easy because I work with the math all the time for making designs. Like I understand the motif repeat and how to convert and all that stuff, and it's easy. But when I sat down to actually turn it into a pattern with a calculations page, I was like, wow, it took me almost 3 hours to write all the text and like explain it in such a way. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is very much needed. So this little chart, conversion chart, pattern thingy is $3 on the website. It's download only. I'm not going to do this in paper. I'm just showing you the paper one. And what it does is it basically helps you take any small design. It doesn't even have to be one you bought from me. It can be any small repeating design. Find something on Pinterest or whatever, and turn it into a larger embroidery. And it walks you through how to do that step by step on here. Kind of gives you a visual for those of you who are visually oriented. And then on the back, it has a calculations page where you're going to fill in all of your numbers. And then, I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm learning to do something, it really helps if I can have an example to go, okay, wait, now I see how to do that. So what we did is we took the Salerno tile chart and I showed you how to do it, like for example. So this is now available at the website. I'm pretty excited about that because I want to see Instagram posts of people taking smaller designs and like making large table runners. Also good, not just for table runners, but for cushion covers. If you want to do a cushion cover where basically it's an all the same design as a repeat, it almost like creates a whole new fabric, really, and not have a border, but have like an all over design, this chart will be really handy for that. So that's now on the website, $3. And what else? Oh, the last thing. Oh, one more thing. For those of you who get Just Cross Stitch magazine, okay, the Christmas ornament issue just went out, and I am, wait for it, the very last design in Just Cross Stitch magazine. So what this is it's the Corinthian cross. In the magazine, it's labeled as Greek cross. We'll have these kits available on the website probably next week sometime. But this ornament features a kind of traditional cross design. I had a lot of requests from people who do in the South, I think they're called chrysamon trees. Anyways, we don't have this custom in the Pacific Northwest, but I think it's big in the South. And they wanted an ornament that actually had a cross on it. So I did that, and this is a cross. It's actually a cross both ways. It's a cross, boop, ba-doop, and it's a cross this way, boop, ba-doop. Now, this was the first cross stitch ornament I've ever made. I've never made any. And so I was like, how would I finish this? Because I'm so used to finishing for cushion covers or table runners or things like that. So what I did on this one is I did a drawn thread hem, but what I did is to line the back of it, I did a double drawn thread hem technique with a lining. So this is basically, I don't know if you can see it there. And then it has a piece of buckram in here that basically keeps it kind of stiff. You wouldn't have to use the buckram, but it does kind of make it a little bit, it gives it its shape. And then I just used a little bit of floss for a little braid hoop. This technique of doing the drawn thread hem and then doing the lining with the second row of drawn thread hem and then putting the stiffening in, all the stuff. I have a video that I already have taken the video. It's just a matter of editing it. And so I'm hoping to have that on the website maybe over the weekend. It's kind of like video and camera weekend starting tomorrow. I got to get all my stuff up because I'm a little bit behind. And so I'll do a step-by-step of how to do that. Now, for those of you who are like, oh yeah, not my thing, I'm not into ornaments, you might still want to take a peek at the video because this technique can be awesome if you want to, say, line a table runner. You can use the same technique, this double drawn thread hem technique, anytime you want to put a lining on the back of your embroidery. So like, for example, if you wanted to if this is like the new bit kit, Byzantine Rose, if you wanted to line it, you could actually put a lining here and use that inside row of drawn thread hem stitching to secure your lining. Very elegant, very top drawer, very classy. So that's the technique that I should, again, hopefully over the weekend. And then what else the last thing. So, wow, it was a lot this month. Oh, the last thing I wanted to explain to you and talk to you about is the Center for Craft grant. Some of you have seen on Instagram that's part of why I'm also slow this month with getting the FlossTube is I bit the bullet and I applied. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did it. I'm already like, I submitted the grant. I'm already like, now I'm like having nerves. I'm having post-grant application nerves. But so basically the Center for Craft is an organization that expands and supports craft knowledge in the United States. And they offer a number of grants that help do that. They had a research grant that was brought to my attention. And initially I thought I was going to apply for that. But then I realized they had an artist fellowship grant for mid-career artists that was a way better fit for me. And so, fingers crossed, what it is a $10,000 grant to support an artist who will expand and support craft knowledge in the United States. So I had to come up with a project and write the grant. Now, so I'm thinking of doing this. I hear about the grant. I'm thinking about doing it. And I'm like, I got to find somebody who knows how to write grants. So you remember earlier I mentioned my friend Christine who showed up in New York and like we went to the Music Man and she, crashed in my hotel room. Okay, this is my friend Christine. She is, let's just say when it comes to spontaneity, we are at opposite ends of the spectrum. I am Miss like, okay, we need to have it organized and planned and all of that kind of stuff. And Christine's like, woohoo, let's like go do something. So I knew Christine worked for the government, but I had no idea what she did. And so I'm in the middle of thinking, should I apply for this grant? This is about maybe 4 weeks ago. And I'm in Trader Joe's one Saturday morning, and Christine calls me about something to do with the kids, because we each have 12-year-old daughters, and our daughters are friends, and we're family friends. And I'm like, Christine, I got this thing for this grant. I'm thinking about applying. Do you know anybody who writes grants? And she's like, Krista, that is actually what I do for the Department of Justice for the United States government. And I'm like, no way. She's like, yeah, what do you need help with? So anyways, so Christine, my friend, I mean, I just felt like that was a sign from the universe that it was time to apply for this grant. So the grant application it's a big deal to apply for a grant. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of a lot of writing that goes into grants, and you have to come up with your project. So for the grant, what I wanted to do is go to Greece and study folk embroidery in more depth. Because here's the deal. I love folk embroidery, and if it was up to me, I would literally wake up every morning and start stitching and stitch until I go to bed at night, or design, or just do all things embroidery, and I would be a total flake in my life, like totally just a flake. I'd be like, whatever. I probably wouldn't forget to go grocery shopping or do the laundry or all the things. But that's not really possible. So, I have my day job, although it's not really like a day job in that sense. I love my job of making vestments for Greek churches all throughout the United States. But my vestment job is actually what pays for the Trader Joe's bills and the heat and the electricity and all those things. And so I don't really have the financial freedom to just trip off to Greece for a few weeks to study folk embroidery. So the grant is actually what would allow me to do that. So if I am awarded the grant, I won't know till December, but if I'm awarded the grant, what it does is it will fund me going to Greece next year for 4 weeks to study embroidery, folk embroidery, both at museums and among community events. So I'm working with some of my friends in Greece who are going to host evenings where women bring their embroideries, their traditional embroideries, so I can photograph and document. That's one thing I'll be doing is research. But what will come out of the grant are 3 separate projects. Those projects will be on 3 new techniques of folk embroidery that I haven't been able to teach on the Avlea website or offer kits or patterns for. The first is lace work. It's kind of like a cross between cross stitch and beadwork with needle lace finishing. It's really cool, really different than anything here. I own a couple of pieces that I bought while I've been on trips to Greece, and I've always wanted to understand how to do that. So that would be a project that will go onto the Avlea website, because that one's going to be the most complex, because it really involves 3 separate techniques: cross stitch, beading, and needle lace. The next one would be the Naxos darning stitch. There's a specific stitch that is used in embroidery of the Naxos islands that is very different than cross stitch. It is used on an even weave fabric, and it allows for it's less blocky than cross stitch. I think that's the best way to describe it. So that will teach me that technique. And then the final technique that will be an article that will most likely go out in the Embroiderers Guild of America Needle Arts magazine with an instructional video and an article. Then the third project is Cretan stitch. And I want to see how they do it in Greece. I know how to do Cretan stitch, but I want to understand how they use it specifically in Cretan embroidery. If you Google Cretan embroidery, that's Cretan, as in the island of Crete, their embroidery style is very different from all other folk embroidery. They use Cretan stitch, they use mermaids. If you look at Cretan folk embroidered skirts, it's just stunning. Most likely has some kind of Venetian influence, because they're right there in the whole maritime trade routes of the medieval age. But I'd like to understand that and be able to develop a pattern. That pattern and video and article will most likely be produced for Taproot magazine. So that's what the grant will cover. A lot of info, but I feel like I should explain why I'm applying for this grant. And basically, the grant will allow me to be 4 weeks in Greece, studying those techniques in museums and in person with an embroidery tutor. So I'm starting lessons this next week. Actually, next week I start with a woman named Arati in Athens, and we are virtually teaching. So she is teaching me the techniques that I don't know and explaining me things that I don't know, because I'm really ready to take the folk embroidery to the next level. I mean, I love cross stitch, and I probably would do cross stitch and count and thread and back stitching till the day I die, but I want to bring in more techniques, because I really want Avlea to be, have a very full expression of the folk embroidery traditions of the Mediterranean. And adding these techniques is going to be really critical to doing that. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. We'll see if I get the grant. I had to do all sorts of things. I had to write a resume. I've never needed a resume. So I had to do a resume and I had to write an artist statement and explain my budget and all these sorts of things. So it was a really great process. And I will say that even if I don't get the grant, I feel like the process of going through the grant was a huge process of growth for me. I feel like it's really easy in midlife. I don't know if any of you can identify with this, but I feel like in midlife, it's very easy to sort of feel like, man, what have I done with my life except for a bunch of embroidery? And believe me, a bunch of embroidery is great, but it was so helpful for me to go back and have to list every article I've written, my book projects, the presentations I've given, and all of this. And it was a real shot in the arm, as strange as that sounds, but I was like, wait, I have a very good body of work here. And to provide a portfolio. I had to provide a portfolio of 14 projects. And so that was great. I had to count how many embroideries I've done. I've done 79 folk embroideries in the last 10 years. So it was just very, very helpful for me it was a real confidence booster. I was like, well, even if I don't get the grant, like it was just really exciting to be like, no, I'm making progress. I'm making progress and I'm gaining skills and, all of that. So it was really great. Anyways, that was a lot about the grant, but it's really top of mind for me. Of course, now every night I'm going to bed going, oh, what if I get the grant? Can I really be gone for a month? And I'm like having like anxiety, but I'm like, you know what? It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And it's going to be great. And if I get the grant, I'm really in this very peaceful place with like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So that's kind of where I'm at. So lots of stitching, lots of great new stuff. Sign up for the emails, check it out on Instagram, all the things. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. Every month, it's just exciting to me to see that, so many people like watched and wanted to hear what I was up to. So thank you so much for your support and your encouragement that is really allowing me to sort of create and help reinterpret and move folk embroidery, to the next level and to the next generation. I really feel like, and I absolutely cannot do this without you guys. And I'm so, so grateful that you're such a warm, compassionate, kind, and enthusiastic audience and partners in this work of like reviving folk embroidery in the United States. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great month, and I will see you all next month.